Live here.
Live!
But we don't have to necessarily know what that means.
What's the someday of Black?
I don't
there's
know
a
that we
reason
want
this story happens now.
Ladies and gentlemen, the movie writes itself. Ooh.
I'm still streaming. How do I stop streaming? No! When that intro starts, I suddenly have the feeling that I'm like waiting in the wings, being an actor, ready to go on. I really had that feeling just right. There was like, okay,
right.
My gentle warm-ups, you know, I'm there. I'm 21 years old in the wings of the Royal Shakespeare Company, but it's not.
Well, is that why you're Jake Must Die today? Are you Romeo?
Yes.
Yeah. Is that the reference? Romeo Must Die?
That's the reference.
It is.
Yeah.
Who was in that movie?
Yeah, good question.
Was that a Bridget Fonda movie? No.
Let's find out.
I don't know.
Let's find out. Let's waste our time.
Well, Jake does that. Welcome everybody to Ben and Jake Write a Movie.
No, I thought it was Aaliyah, and it's right. It was Aaliyah and Jet Li.
Jet Li. I knew it was a Jet Li movie, but I couldn't remember. I think there was a Bridget Fonda movie that was like that.
Okay.
That was like some sort of like gun fu martial artsy kind of.
I've never actually seen it. So
look at you. Yeah, well, episode 50.
Episode 50.
Here we are.
What's that? Not bicentennial, but
no.
What's that then?
Like I don't know. Half centennial.
Half centennial. Demi-centennial.
Semi-centennial.
Semi-centennial.
Yes. Right. Now, 50 episodes. We've actually been
amazing. That's amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. And we're,
we've done 50 of these. We don't have a completed movie.
We don't even have a completed outline.
We don't have a completed outline. In fact, we keep changing our mind.
Right.
But again, like we're saying, it's like it's not even 50 hours of discussion, but that would like, this is what our weeks look like. They just look like a lot of talking when we're first coming up with ideas and first planning them out and plotting them out and putting them all together. And as we said, we don't do anything on this outside of this podcast. We are only doing this. So
yeah. I think that the real kind of perseverance aspect is tough. I think it's even tougher when you're only working on something for an hour a day.
It is. It's an unnatural way of doing it. But it is what it is. We're just trying it out.
But it's been fun.
It has been fun.
It's been fun, and hopefully we'll push forward a little bit more today.
Indeed.
I was trying to think of something, honestly, that would be like a good kind of businessy or crafty discussion, but I honestly don't have anything today. I'm gonna be completely honest. I got nothing.
Yeah, I was thinking over lunchtime. I was just like, I don't know. It's very easy for us to. Nicholas is watching. Hey, Nick.
Yeah.
50. That's exciting. I was thinking at lunchtime too. I was like, I don't immediately have anything that I'm really thinking about at the moment, other than just, well, this is interesting, and it's interesting. Tied with this project and also the project that we were working on before lunch.
Sure.
Which is, I think, really about not being married to the way that you think things are in terms of your project at the beginning. Mm-hmm. We had a moment last week where we were, hang on a minute, could this be, is there another version of this character? Is another version of this thing? We've been working on a pitch for a book series that we have the rights to. And this morning, we were like, this isn't working. What's not working? We have too much story.
Yeah.
And we kind of pulled out a little bit and said, well, are we even telling this movie in the right order? Is there a way to, in that particular case, play with time? Mm-hmm. And we reorganized it, and we're going to tell some certain parts in flashbacks, whether they're flashbacks or memories, a way of getting this twisty bit of
playing with time, really.
Yeah. And so I think really when it comes to any of one's work, I think it's about that thing of constantly being malleable and constantly being. Right. And again, there are points when mean, are there any points when you shouldn't be malleable? I think potentially when you're getting notes, and the notes might take the concept of the movie in a direction that you don't necessarily agree with. And yet, again, counterpoint to that, you're being paid an enormous amount of money and you want to be involved with it. Like, how can you be the best collaborator? The bit of paper I have above my computer.
Right.
How can you be the best collaborator? And it means being malleable. And there are, I'm sure, auteur director screenwriters. I'm sure Christopher Nolan, if someone comes to him if a studio executive comes to him with a note, he's like, fuck you, I'm Christopher Nolan.
Well, it didn't, on the new Avatar, didn't famously James Cameron say that to the studio?
Yeah.
Like, they came to him with a bunch of notes. I mean, and I could be just repeating this wrong, but I believe I read that they came in with a bunch of these notes, and he said, fuck you, I'm James Cameron. I made your 2 highest grossing movies ever. I'll do whatever I want.
Right. Right. But again, it's interesting to know. I mean, I'm seeing Avatar tonight now.
Oh, you are.
I'm going to go and see it tonight.
Nice.
But I'd be intrigued to see,
Right.
I've heard very mixed things about Avatar.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard the visuals are amazing, and the story's a bit like, So you go, should James Cameron be a bit more malleable? Should James Cameron?
Well, here's the thing. I guess part of it is, what are you trying to accomplish?
Sure. Yeah.
Because if anyone is just trying to accomplish box office receipts, James Cameron should be listened to every day of the week and twice on Sunday. If all you want to do is make the highest grossing movie in the world, that's the guy to go to.
Well, which ultimately, from a studio perspective, that is what they want.
Right. Well, but I mean, even like from an artistic writing, like even if it's just as a writer or a director or something, it's like, if you're trying to make, I don't know, a deep and soulful drama or something that you really want to have this strong kind of like artistic, you have a vision to do something really weird and different, or like you were saying, kind of some sort of an auteur kind of thing that you want to explore, then maybe you need to kind of like step back. But honestly, like, and I really enjoyed Avatar 2. I told you I thought it was a little long. Personally, I didn't need the first half an hour. Sure. But considering it's 3.5 hours, I got 3 hours of good movie. Sure. And to me, is the story simple? Yes. I think where it succeeds, and the reason it's about to be, I think it's already the 7th highest grossing movie of all time, and it's still going strong, and it's probably going to win next weekend too.
Yep.
I have no doubt this movie is going to pass 2 billion at the box office. The visuals are spectacular. He takes you on a ride that is entertaining and visually amazing, and it is simple, but the simpleness also broadens your base of an audience. It's an interesting observation, actually, to go like, when a movie is too complex and people go, I either don't understand this, or this is too highbrow for me, or the movie is kind of, I think there's a lot of people out there that might think certain movies talk down to them because they may not be trying to, like figure out all of the nuance that's going into it. I think you lose a lot of audience. And I think that, here's a guy who's like figured out the secret sauce to grabbing the widest, broadest global audience you could possibly grab,
Bringing it back to what we're talking about, though, it feels like what we're saying is, you're either super high end, you're James Cameron, you're Christopher Nolan, or you're doing something perhaps a little low budget, but there's the 98% of people in the middle that aren't that.
And you need to be malleable.
And you need to be malleable.
Yeah.
You know, but really I think it's about where we're at, like it's being malleable with yourself at the beginning. And rather than trying to fit something, going, no, this is the version that I've decided it's going to be, and I'm just going to make that work, even if it doesn't really work. I'm going to, you know, or having the ability to go, step back, go, what's not feeling right about this? What's the problem?
Taking the 30,000 foot view.
Yes.
And making sure that you're always checking in and going, how do I feel about this?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's like you're deep in it, you're doing scene work in an outline, you're right there. But again, just occasionally going,
is this working?
Is this working? Is that still good? And what we did when we did that this morning was we were like, we have too much story. This movie is going to be 3 hours long.
Yes.
Only James Cameron can get away with that.
Yes.
You know, and we're not there yet.
No, nor will we probably ever be. There is only one camera.
There's only one camera. There's only one Jim.
I mean, it is really interesting, and I think that too. There is a question, and maybe this is a good question to ask. And I don't know that we know the answer, or at least I don't know that I know the answer, which is, at what point are you willing to walk away because you're not willing to be malleable on that thing? Totally. Is there any time as a professional screenwriter and not a hobbyist, but someone who is being paid for their work, is there a time where you go, no, that's not the movie I envisioned, that's not the script I want to make, that's not the thing I want to do? I mean, we've had those conversations where we've bitched behind closed doors, but you know, like, is there a point where malleability meets, you know, the kind of edge of the road, and you're like, if I continue to be so malleable, I'm jumping off a cliff, and I know I'm jumping off a cliff, and I know it's going to suck, or I know it's not going to be the thing that I want it to be, or I know that they're wrong in what they're thinking, but I can't seem to convince them why. Is there a point where you either walk away, or do you just say, this is the job, and you do the best you can?
It's probably depends on multiple factors.
Yeah.
One of those factors, I think, does become financial. It just does. You know, you go, I've written this thing. Someone wants to buy it, but they want to make it this.
Right.
Do I want to, you know, plant my stick in the ground and say, plant my flag in the ground and say, no, this is what it is.
Yeah.
If it's not going to be that, you can't have this.
Right.
And that might be what is going to bring you fulfillment. It might be to have, well, I will find somewhere that wants to make it the way that I think it should be.
Sure.
And there's the version of going, how can I stay involved for as long as possible and keep my input in it, even if it's not exactly what I thought it was going to be? We're in that at the moment.
Right.
We've been in it for the last 2 years on a project.
Yeah.
We had a project. We have a project that we envisioned as an R-rated something.
Sure.
And slowly over the course of time, the producer's gone, it needs to be lighter than that. It doesn't fit the tone. We did another draft that perhaps brought it into more of a PG-13 space and yet kept the DNA of the original.
Yeah.
And now our producer wants to take it in yet another direction. And because we want to be involved with it, and because we still believe in the core DNA of what this idea is, we're going, yes. And also, because it's with a high-profile producer, had at various points big names attached to it, we're going, oh, it could be that. So on that particular one, I'm not going, but it's not the R-rated vision we had 2 years ago. It's becoming this other thing. And yet, is there something in me going, oh, it's just a shame because I'd really like that thing and we haven't seen that before. And this is the commercial version of it over here. And
and I wonder too if like, is there a point though where you go, I'm not the right person for this version?
Yeah.
You know, I do feel like writers need to know their strengths and the types of movies that they
excuse me, sorry,
water down the wrong side, and the types of movies that they're at least at that moment in their careers and in their creative lives are going to be able to deliver on.
Right.
Not, I mean, look, I'm sure there are lots of writers out there who strongly believe that they could write any genre at any time and that they have that creative capacity.
And maybe there are.
God bless, you know, or you know, like kudos. But
I know writers who've written action and comedy and horror. David Cogglesoul, a name that springs to mind.
Yeah.
Across
multiple genres I get, but like, you know, is he gonna write a teen rom-com? I don't know, maybe.
Sure.
You know, but like if you have a story that you want to tell, I mean, I think about for example, that we had 2 projects that we actually sold and set up at 2 different studios. One was based on the book House of the Scorpion, and the other one was an original idea that we called Santa Swap. And both of those ideas, when we came with a take, we had a very clear idea of what we wanted to do, and they were in line with kind of what we do best, right? I would say Santa Swap was stretching us, but our take on it was definitely more the us version.
Yeah.
In both those cases, we sold the pitches that were us, and then the studio or network decided that the version that they were excited about wasn't necessarily the same tone or even the same demographic of the version that we had pitched.
Right.
There, at that point, I mean, I think we would have had a legitimate case to say, we totally understand, but this isn't going to work, and walk away. But I know that at this stage, currently, even at this stage in our career, I don't know that we feel like we would want to do that to a studio head we'd never worked with before.
I know.
You know? Absolutely. And so you want to be the most collaborative person you can be. And both of those times, it took the projects in directions that didn't feel natural for us to write in. And so one became very teen soap opera-y, and then one...
They both did. Interestingly, in their own
the other one became less. It became even younger. It wasn't even like teens. It was like pre-teens.
Yeah.
But it was also like way more comedic and youthful.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I do believe, and I feel really good about our House of the Scorpion script. I'm sad that it didn't that it didn't go. I feel like we really worked hard on that, but at that time, they just weren't looking for it.
Yeah.
But Santa Swap was a really interesting experience because we wrote an entire draft and went, oh shit, this is bad.
We did.
And we actually went to our producer and said, dude, we've got to rethink this whole thing because we're trying to do the notes and it's just not working. And so we're gonna start again. I mean, we practically started again. We worked over Christmas and New Year's, and we were late on our delivery, but not by that much. Yeah. And we had the producer connect with the studio and say, look, they're having trouble cracking it. They're going to come back. And again, I think the second version of that script was definitely better.
Oh, absolutely.
Like 100 times.
And yet it still wasn't.
It wasn't the best.
It wasn't the best version. We weren't the right writers for that version of that.
Yes. And interestingly enough, although it never happened, the producer came back to us and said, hey, this studio isn't going to make it because of X, Y, and Z. Their demos changed, but we can get it back. Do you guys want to do you guys want to take it out again? Which, looking back on that, I kind of go, two things. I go, man, we could have just taken it out, but we made a choice that was not the right script for us to write. It was a great idea.
Yeah.
But it was not the right script for us. And we walked away.
We did.
And we said, we find another writer and we'll be producers on it.
Yeah.
And we're happy to do that.
Yeah.
But we are just not the right writers. If it's going to stay this way, and if it's going to not stay this way and we want to go completely back in the other direction, that's going to involve an enormous amount of work. And we really didn't know. At that point, we'd already written 2 versions of the script. I think we're done with this idea for right
now. Yeah, totally.
But
we were talking about this earlier, weren't we? Was that you just watched Violent Night over the week?
Yes.
And that there was the opening scene, if you haven't seen it, so I'm spoiling it. The opening scene is Santa in a pub getting drunk. And that was in our script.
Yep.
That was in our story. And he was up over the edge of his sleigh. Yeah.
A lot of shadow on my face today. It's my hat. Must be my hat. Anyway, back to just kind of the idea of like, when do you?
It's interesting is because with both of those, it was a book series that we didn't have the rights to. We've been brought on as writers. So we got these notes. We're going to take it in a different direction, even though perhaps that wasn't our initial instincts. But we went like, well, at this moment, they are paying us. Right. And we'd been on it for a while, 7 or 8 months, it feels like.
A long time, yeah.
It might have even been longer.
Yeah.
And we went, okay, we'll do that.
I think it was a year from our first
it might have been a year. We've been attached to projects for a very long time.
Yeah.
And with the Santa swap, I was like, I love the idea. That was a really fun, great idea, and it still is a good idea.
Yeah.
I wasn't artistically, emotionally attached to one version of it, so much so that I'd be like, no, it's gotta be this. It was like, we've sold it. It's a paycheck.
But I think it'd be interesting to kind of see if that were to ever happen again, if someone came to us on, we'll call it Demon Knight, which is not a good name, by the way, for this title. Because actually, I think there's a video game called that. Or something.
And the Demon Knights are a DC property.
And the Demon Knights. But screw them. We could do this first, called Demon Knight. Hey, maybe that is the title. Who knows? But if someone came to us and was like, you know what? We're going to buy this from you based on this concept. And then we get into our creative meeting and they go, we have this great idea, guys. We're going to do this, but it's going to be with Melissa McCarthy and it's going to be with, Mila Kunis.
Sure.
And it's going to be a buddy comedy. And we need like big laughs and big jokes, slapstick humor through the whole thing. It's going to be hysterical. Do we walk?
Again, I think it's individual case by case scenario. And I think it's where you're at creatively. It's at the end of the day, are you going to feel happy with what comes out? Are you going to feel happy with what comes out and the amount of money that's in your bank account because of it? Because they can balance each other out.
They can, but I think I'm at the place, maybe, again, I'm just speaking for me. I think I'm at the place where I would rather be honest and say, you know what, that I can totally see that version of the movie. Maybe we should find the right writer for that, and we'll continue to produce it for you.
Totally.
Versus shitting the bed on a script.
Oh yeah, I would.
But if we were working with a studio, like I never, and this is I never, ever, ever want to turn in a script that I'm not proud of.
Agreed.
We worked, like I said, through Christmas and New Year's to make sure that we were turning in a script that we at least could say we were proud and that we did the best that we could do.
Yeah.
I would rather, if that were to happen, I would go, all right, like, we get it. We're so excited that you want to make this movie. We love it. we're not the best writers for that. You know it. You've read our stuff. We don't
Yeah.
do buddy comedies in that
Totally.
way. So let's do it, but
Yeah.
probably not with us writing it. You know,
It was interesting, wasn't it? We recently went up for a job at Disney Plus, and you know, the book was interesting, and they wanted a kind of funny version of this book.
Right.
It's a bit of a wacky, out there book. It was fun and funny at times, and they wanted to go in a kind of like a Shaun of the Dead direction with it.
Yeah.
And we didn't get the job because they basically said that to us.
Yeah, they said, look, we need more comedic writers.
We need more comedic writers if that's going to be the take.
And we were like, okay, we get it.
Yeah, totally.
I'm not going to like,
no.
Yeah, you know, maybe one day, like, we'll focus on our comedy chops. And
right.
I have no doubt, I feel like creative people are creative people. And I'm sure if we like really practiced hard, we could probably write a kick-ass comedy.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're not the guys to do that right now. There was another movie that we went out for over the summer that we basically came in and said, our take is not going to be what you're probably wanting to do, but we think our version of this movie would be awesome. So we're going to pitch you the Ben and Jake version of this movie. And if you like it, great. And if you don't,
that's okay.
So good. Totally. You know? So I think like the malleability question, and then we're going to move on to our outline, but I think the malleability question, it does depend on the project, and it also depends on what stage you're at, right?
Yeah.
But at a certain point, and it also depends on what point you're at in your career.
That's it.
I don't think there's one right answer. I genuinely think it's like you have to take each situation and have to go, what are the consequences of me bending to this? Yes. And are they worth it?
Totally.
You know.
Let's jump into our script. Thomas Lee says, "Happy New Year, guys. Hi, guys. Happy New Year. Happy
Thomas.
It is going well.
Happy New Year to you too."
At what point do you stop saying Happy New Year? Is it end of January?
Yeah, probably.
You've probably got January.
I mean, in theory, I guess if you haven't seen someone since the New Year, you could say, "I hope you're having a good happy New Year." I don't know.
In December,
you have a good holiday.
Yes, so Happy New Year.
Well, that's Happy New Year for the next year.
Totally. Yeah. Well, that's
now you're switching over.
Totally. If I forget someone's birthday, I say, "I'm wishing you a happy birthday," not for the one I just missed, but it's early for next year.
Do people say happy belated Happy New Year?
So, all right. Where are we? I mean,
so where we're at, I think, is we've decided that Sam is going to be more unexpected.
Yes.
In terms of the fact that she's going to be the Antichrist. We've decided that Charlize, or whoever we call her now, Lilith, is also going to be leaning into the fact of what she wants, which is to not ever have to go back to hell at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And that can look like different things. And I think one of the things we talked about was like hiding in plain sight.
Yes.
Was the direction that we were going to go in.
I had observed and was expressing a concern over the fact that I didn't want the demon character and the quote unquote soccer mom character to be too similar. And so we were having a conversation about that. And
I had pitched out that Sam can be anything we want her to be. She doesn't have to be simplistic or a housewife. She can be a lawyer. She could be a doctor. She could be anything we want. And I'd actually, I think we hadn't landed on the actual changes that we are going to do, but that basically we were going to take Hank and move him into Act 2 fully.
Yes.
Take him out of Act 1.
We could potentially see him do
maybe as like a possible like, who's this guy?
Who's this fucking guy?
Yeah. You know, you'd have some like music underneath his scenes, some like ominous music.
Yes.
And then we were talking about that much of what we already have with Charlize, it's possible that it's similar if we found a way to also make it feel like she's doing what it is that we want her to do. There was a couple of different versions that we had pitched out. I had mentioned that your idea on our other script, if she had her own apartment and it had like 50 locks on the door or something, that maybe that was something that we could do.
Yeah.
But then the counter, as we talked about it, is like, does that I brought up witness protection and how, like, if you're genuinely trying to hide and you create a new identity for yourself and you want to go and not be found, that to do anything that's going to draw attention to you in any way is not a good thing. But you know, this is a movie, so we can do whatever. I mean,
it's a
movie.
movie.
Have to be like all logical in that sense.
Totally, yeah, and that's it. Is you know, there's the public face of I'm hiding in plain sight, and then when I'm at home right. And yeah, maybe.
You know where we stopped? I think.
Yeah.
Although we probably should watch the tail end of these episodes. We had been talking about the issue with the stakes, and you had said, "Well, why don't we get rid of the boyfriend and the kid?" And I said, "Well, if we got rid of the boyfriend and the kid, then what do we do at the end of the movie?" Because we had already mapped out the idea that Zod was going to ultimately take the boyfriend and the kid, and then we're left with no real stakes. And then we were talking about, well, does Sam have a family? And the answer is absolutely, Sam could have a family, and maybe those are the stakes. What is at stake for Charlize?
What is at stake for Charlize?
You know, and part of the conversation was like, well, okay, so she's a demon who developed some empathy in hell and thus knew that she would ultimately get cold.
Yeah.
But
if hell
hasn't made her like Superman, like she doesn't care so deeply about humankind that she like gives a shit, you know?
I mean, as we just talk about it just now, we probably mentioned this briefly the other day. If hell comes to Earth, and it is hell on Earth, she's going to get found and she's going to get killed just like any other person.
Right.
And it can absolutely be born out of, at the beginning, self-preservation.
But what is it? Okay, so if it's just, I mean, I guess here's the thing. I hear that. I do. And I think you might be totally right. I'm just going to...
we'll talk around it. Yeah.
If that's it, if it's just about self-preservation, why I'm literally coming out of hiding, putting myself directly in the view of other demons, risking my secret identity that I've been building for 100 years, because I think that maybe the Antichrist is finally here after a millennium.
I don't think it should be. I think maybe. And it comes down to what am I certain of? You know, I am certain that that this is the moment that's been planned for generations that I know of, because I used to be on that.
I guess here's where I'm getting at. It's not really the if or the maybe. It's this thing of going, so you're more concerned, and I understand she's a demon, but you're more concerned that they're going to find you if the Antichrist comes, versus the fact that the Antichrist is coming and hell is going to take over Earth and all humanity will ultimately be submitted to demons. And it just doesn't feel...
Could that be part of her journey? Could that be part of her arc?
Possibly.
If at the beginning, I'm doing something, oh shit, the Antichrist is here, got to stop that, because if I don't, I'm going to die. Broadly. And at the end of it, it's, and also I bond with this person over this time, and I learn that nugget of empathy that I developed all those years ago could become something more, and actually I could really connect with people once again. Something like that is just my Is my mindset on it?
Something's not sitting right with me about it, but I'm wondering if maybe there's a way, if we were going to run with that, I'm wondering if there's maybe a way then to make it clean, that I really understand that her immortal life is threatened directly because of this. If there's a way to, like, it's just, it feels removed, and it feels like a huge thing for her to do, to pick up, go off to Portland to kill this girl, and yet it doesn't feel like there's any sort of real, I mean, I'm gonna die. Well, when? Like, eventually. Eventually they'll find me. It doesn't, it's not like, oh, they're at my door and if I kill her they'll go away. So just,
Sure.
I don't know, there's something that just doesn't kind of sit with me that makes me go, oh, this is the best version of that.
Right.
I want to find a way for it to feel like there's urgency, but not necessarily because if she doesn't care about Sam yet, and he's there to kill her.
Yeah.
So it's not, and then also, I think also jumbled in there, and what feels messy to me is the fact that the other demons are coming for her. So she knows that the other demons are going to be coming. So it just doesn't necessarily feel like the best version, unless maybe she was like using a sniper rifle from 1,000 yards away. like it just doesn't seem like incredibly smart if the whole thing is she doesn't want to get caught. So I don't know. I don't know what that is, like, why is she doing this? If it was like in the current outline, it kind of comes down to the fact that she actually cares about people, specifically these two people. And she realizes that this would be the end of all humanity. And she's kind of found a version of humanity, I guess, that she likes. I get that that might not be the best arc for her, possibly, but at least I understand her motivation to stop Sam quickly, because it's not just about her, and because I don't even know what she necessarily is fighting so hard for. I mean, I guess there's a survival instinct, but she's been around for, I mean, she's a demon. Like, I don't know. It doesn't feel really powerful. So maybe there's something else that we can think of that is a thing that, Charlize, like, it's interesting to think about Charlize and her arc that we've talked about up until now, which is, this is a demon who doesn't want to be bad anymore, but believes that in order to not be bad anymore, she has to be inauthentic to herself. And that's something that we had landed on, I don't know, right before the break or something. And I really responded to this idea of authenticity. I really responded to this idea of these people being who they, allowing themselves to be both who they are and who they want to be, and that doesn't necessarily have to be mutually exclusive. And yet what she had been doing is she'd been keeping her demon self completely at bay, or whatever, like the part of her that, I don't know, has fun, I guess. And had been pretending to be this housewife slash stepmom slash girlfriend, whatever.
Yeah, slash bookstore owner.
And that ultimately it's the demon side of her that helps save the day. It's very clean, in my opinion, in terms of like a character journey, and I liked that. Is there a way to still do that? I don't know why. What was the problem that we were trying to solve? Because I don't remember.
I mean, Part of it was it born out of this idea of these people being too similar. I was talking just about that a few minutes ago. It runs the risk of, hey, here is a demon who's not like a demon because she actually runs a bookstore and is in a relationship with a guy and cares deeply about daughter. But really, she's a demon, and that's surprising because you wouldn't expect a demon to be like that. And then the other version of the Antichrist is she's the Antichrist, but get this, she's not what you think of as the Antichrist because she's got a family and she's got a job, and it just feels like it's just doing the same thing with both of these characters. And you know, that just I don't know, just doesn't feel like the best version of it. You know, I think what works so well in movies like The Terminator, movies like Midnight Run, these kinds of movies is you have two very different characters put into the same space together. And maybe we're not there at the moment as is anyway. You know, and that's, I'm not saying that at the moment in the current version of the outline is definitely the best version either. But there's like, what is the difference between these two people? Where do you get the fun conflict? Where do you get the humor out of these two people who are so different from each other, having to go on this road trip quest mission together that aren't the same people? So it's partly born out of that.
Right.
It's how can we make these characters feel significantly different? And at the moment, what we've slipped into is it's not what you'd expect of the Antichrist. This isn't what you think a demon is. So it's born out of it's born out of that, for me at least.
Sure. Okay. So I don't know that I have the solution for what you're saying, because at the moment, other than going, she would just be like a demon who's like just mean all the time. I guess I don't know what is the difference between the two of them. What is, like, even in any version, even in the version that we have,
it comes down to, you know, it's interesting, going back to the conversation we were having a little bit earlier. It's like, how malleable are we on the concepts that we've already developed up until this point? Because at the moment, there's a bit of a marriage too. We really want this Charlize demon to be in a relationship with a guy in some way and have a daughter in some way. We talked the other day about, well, is she actually more the loner in the woods who's separated herself away from mankind?
Right.
We're going, no, it should be this thing that we've talked so much about and developed so much because we like an aspect of that. And don't get me wrong, all those ideas are good. They're just not good with the version of Sam that we're talking about as well. And yet I understand the instinct to want to change the version of Sam, because that feels like the tone of the movie is quite dark and heavy. She's an addict. She's coming out of, it's almost a bit of a metaphor for drug use. Like, it feels quite heavy and dark. I do like that version of the movie too. I like what we've created with that version of Sam as well. I do. It was a conversation we had at the beginning of last week of kind of going, is this tonally becoming a bit heavy?
Well, I mean, all that came out of just the idea of, like, how do we find the core of what this movie is? What's the fresh concept? What if the Antichrist was blank and the only person who could save humanity was a demon from hell? You know, and finding the fresh, interesting, high concept way into the movie. That's you go, oh, that's fun. Oh, that's really fun. I go, I don't mind the kind of dark and gritty version of this movie. I like the dark and gritty version. One thing we talked about, though, is will it be too Constantine-ish?
Yes, we did.
You know, I guess the problem that I have, and again, it's like if Charlize were the loner demon in the woods, which, okay, I'm not completely opposed to that. I like the imagery of it, but why is she doing any of this then? Like, I just don't fully get what she
gets out of it.
Yeah. Like, okay, so you don't have much of a life anyway. Like, what are you fighting for?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm. So it kind of the question I have in my mind is, what is the I'll just get to like base levels. What's the primal thing driving anyone in this movie? Driving Charlize?
Mm-hmm.
What is an emotion that's just going to go, oh, don't get me wrong. Love is an absolutely primal emotion. Protection, an absolutely primal emotion. Revenge, hatred. Does she do this because she fucking wants to stop Zod so much because she fucking hates him? I don't know if that's the right answer, but is there a version of that? Is it, self-preservation is a primal desire. I don't want to die, therefore I'm going to do this. But I hear what you're saying. We must feel her desire to fucking really keep living.
Yeah.
There must be like, what is she? Anybody wants to keep living.
To live for.
Say again?
What does she want to live?
What does she want to live for? So anyway, those are the questions. It's.
And I guess if it was like, I could understand the primal survival instincts in an urgency way. Like, if someone is there with a gun pointing at your head, I get your fight or flight, and I totally understand, regardless of whether you just are a loner living in a cabin in the woods, you're going to fight to survive, right? Yeah. But it feels too far removed. It's not right this second. It's not, so it's like,
yeah, I mean, like, okay. So, but I mean, when the spy goes on the mission to disable the nuclear weapon, because it's going to wipe out all of humankind, including me. It's not. There's no one with a gun outside. It's saying you need to go.
That's a person who cares about humanity,
sure,
and humankind. So there is the fate of the human race, which actually means something to me. Because she's a demon. If that means something to her, I need to make sure that I understand that actually means something.
Okay, yeah.
And that's where her connection with other human beings helps. If it's that she's a loner, then there needs to be then the survival of the human race doesn't really feel that important to her as a demon.
Is there a version of it that's kind of impotent, and it's versions that we've talked about, which is that I'm hiding in plain sight. I live in this little town in bumblefuck nowhere. I keep being asked out by this guy. Like, is there a version where she's in the diner? We talked about this early scene. She's in the diner, and the guy comes and talks to her. And he's got his daughter with her, and he asks her out on a date. And she's like, I don't know. And he's like, when are you going to say yes to me, Shows? When are you going to? She's like, I don't know. Maybe someday, And we see that she likes and cares about these people. They mean something to her, but she's not involved and doing all of that stuff yet. She would like to have a connection with someone, but isn't sure if she's capable of that yet. Antichrist thing happens. She's like, she's like wrestling what to do. What do I do? Do I go and save the day, or do I just fucking run off and just fucking let this thing happen? And then sees Ted and Joey playing in the boat. Is like, actually, I do care about humanity. We see it in her eyes, and she's like, I need to go and stop this thing from happening because I do care enough about humanity. Something like that. I don't know. Just pitching that out. Again, these are kind of versions that we've talked about.
Look, okay. New pitch. if the rise of the Antichrist has been making the veil between worlds thinner, and thus more demons are actually coming and being, I mean, it's so fucking Constantine, but I'll pitch it anyway because it works just slightly different from Constantine. But if the threat of if the Ghostbusters style, Constantine style threat of the fact that demons are now in my backyard is a thing, and that people I know, and myself included, are potentially at risk. And why? Because we're on the eve of the Antichrist's arrival, and they're becoming more brazen, and and they're getting more power, and they're able to break through the veil. Now I have an urgency to do something about something that is actually happening, not a hypothetical.
No, it's actually
a real thing.
Totally.
If I see a demon grab a kid, and I go and beat the crap out of the demon and save the kid, and I'm like, fuck, I have to do something about this.
Yeah.
I get it. I'm in. I get it. But I
don't hate this version. I don't hate this.
Yeah. It's just a little Constantine, but it's not the same, but it is the same. Like, there is a whole thing in Constantine whereby it's like the demons are being more brazen and kind of crossing over in ways that they're not supposed to. But they don't necessarily go into, like, it doesn't have to do necessarily with, like, unless I'm forgetting, but I don't think it does have to do with, like, anything like the Antichrist is upon us, and thus it's time to come and take what is rightfully ours.
Sure.
I mean, I could see there even, like, I mean, bad dialogue, but like she confronts, we already have a scene where that demon is in town. The bad dialogue is like, it's time for us to finally take what is ours. You're either with us or you're against us, bitch.
Yeah.
And she's like, I've been against you for 100 years.
Yeah.
And like, you know, does whatever it is that kills demons.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I've got a mission now, and I'm the only one that can stop them because I'm the only one that knows how to fucking do it and find the Antichrist and do it. And I get it. I just understand because it's right there in your face. And I like that. Look, whether I'm fine that she's been a loner in this, if she has, because it could be relationships with people that are so small. The sweet old lady who is the waitress behind the diner counter and her have a moment, a la a scene that we wrote, an outline scene that we had well before.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, she has, like, she does care. She's becoming more human. And if you're becoming more human, even if you're not all the way there yet, and then something like this dangerous shows up in your backyard, you have the instinct to then go and protect the people that you started to develop a life with.
Totally.
If she, you know, the other thing is that, and you could establish this too, but I think it goes hand in hand, which is it's been 100 years, and this could be like, I finally, after 100 years, have found a home that I have created for myself, and you're gonna fuck it all up,
right? Totally.
And so there is a version of adding in this extra element of personal, like, I have a business, I have a town with people I know, friends. The guy that I'm attracted to did just ask me out on a date, and now I'm going to have to stand him up. Why? Because a fucking demon just attacked me, and I'm covered in demon blood.
Totally.
You know, like you could create those moments in that thing where it's like, and she's like, you know, it's Luke Wilson, and she runs up to Luke Wilson, and she's like, I'm really sorry I missed our date. Can we reschedule for, like, I don't know, 2 weeks from now, like 3 weeks from now.
Yeah.
It's like,
Sure.
what is going on? What's going on? She's like,
Yeah.
I can't really.
I can't explain this.
I can't really, you know.
Now, then, in that version, those people can still get held hostage. That can still.
Yeah, I mean, her whole town could be held hostage, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
But it just gets bigger. Obviously, the movie starts to get bigger.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that if Sam is the one who has a family, and depending on how, I don't know, Sam's a whole other question, but I think that by shifting the apocalypse to we're getting close, and it's just with every mark that shows up on this girl, with every, you know, piece of the mark of Cain that is coming, the demons are getting more and more brazen, and they don't care. They're crossing over, and they're going to start fucking shit up. And we're like really close to it just being done. And maybe it is that the veil between worlds has become thinner, and it doesn't take as much energy it doesn't take as much demonic energy right now to cross over. Whatever that is. And then it's like we're in, you know, this little town in, I think, Colorado is where we put it. And all of a sudden there's a demon there, and it's like, fuck.
We need to write this down somewhere.
Yeah.
The last moment of it right now.
So true. So true.
You know, it's I mean, I like this. I like this version. She's not fully involved and invested yet. She doesn't live with them yet. She's on the verge of.
She's close. She's close to getting the thing that she always wanted, but she hasn't gotten it yet. All right, I'm gonna share my document here.
Sure.
Which is our old scratch document, which is all over the place. Go back and look at that at some point.
Yeah, we should absolutely.
But what we were saying, really, and I'm just going to go, you know,
slight shift in shot in
January, take shifts. And I'm just going to say,
it's only subtle, you know.
What's that?
It's subtle, but I think it's important.
Yeah, Charlize. She's not there yet in her full relationships with humans, but she's close. She's a loner, but has been slowly, you know, integrating into this small town, and her walls have been coming down. We can still see her, you know, her fear of being found through her, you know, locks and on the doors and cameras everywhere. But you know, so it's like when demons start to turn up in her town after the energy blasts, or maybe, I mean, it could even be before, actually, but I don't think it could. So. Depends on what that energy blast actually signifies. If it is the origin of the mark, if the mark shows up and that's the cause, then it wouldn't be before. It would be now. She knows what's happening and won't let it continue. You know, basically, like you said, it's a subtle shift, but gives her more complexity. I think. You know, as for Sam, move her in the direction of an unexpected character.
Unexpected Antichrist.
The
unexpected Antichrist.
From the Antichrist.
Yeah.
Something not necessarily comedic.
Yeah.
But,
not necessarily a drug addict either.
Yeah, but not obvious.
Yeah, for sure.
And finding a way, she also needs to have stakes. So if she has a family, then I get what she's fighting for as well. Maybe she's the one with
the family she's fighting for. Great. An hour. That's good though. Really good.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right.
Yeah, it just digging and digging and digging.
I know. Constantly
trying to mine,
honing this thing into a shape that feels right before we commit to scripting it.
Yeah. Well, and that's why we do these long outline phases. It's why we say it takes 2 weeks to do an outline and then 3 weeks to write a script.
Exactly.
Because this is the hard part.
Sure is.
If you get the hard part out of the way, then you're just filling in the blanks.
Indeed. All right. Thanks everyone for joining us today. We'll be back tomorrow, and we'll keep on keeping on.
Woohoo! Yes, and if you aren't following us yet on YouTube, subscribe to our channel.
Do it.
And also, we've been getting a nice following on Spotify and Apple Music as well. So if you don't have the time to watch us, you can always listen to us in your car.
Exactly.
All right. Thanks
so much,
everybody.
everyone.
See you tomorrow.
Take care.